Welcome, everyone, to the Restoration Insider, the podcast built for restoration owners and operators, bringing you conversations with coaches, consultants, trainers, and industry leaders shaping the future of this business. Your host is Scott Sandel, Chief Revenue Officer at Karma Staff, and today Scott sits down with Eric Spray, known throughout the home service industry as the Tech Whisperer. Eric has spent over 12 years running his own water damage restoration company before going full-time into coaching and consulting. He now runs Super Tech University, a daily training platform for restoration technicians focused on the soft skills that drive real customer experience and real revenue. He's also the founder of Blue Collar Consulting and co-host of the Blue Collar Nation podcast, and has also authored the Amazon best-selling book, The Road to Seven Figures. So today's conversation is all about the soft skill gap and technicians, and what is costing restoration owners, and how to build a training culture that actually sticks. So here's Scott and Eric. Gentlemen.
All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you. You made me sound way better than I am. So I appreciate it.
You got to love those intros.
Yeah, it's the best.
Awesome. No, Eric, I'm absolutely looking forward to this discussion.
Me too.
Glad to be on here with you. So let's jump right in.
Yeah.
As we were
let's do
talking
it.
earlier, you ran Shamrock Cleaning and Restoration for over 12 years before
Yep.
pivoting to coaching. So there obviously was a moment that you realized that technician training was one of the things that most restoration owners were just not really addressing properly.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, let me back up a little, Scott. I've been in home services since I was 15 years old. So I have 44 years under my belt. And, when I was coming up in the, early 80s and on, technicians, you would hop in a truck with some old guy who didn't want to train you. He would yell at you all day and tell you you're stupid, maybe throw some tools at you. And if you hung in there long enough, you're one of the guys, right? And I was running my own team how I had been run. And then, that worked through generations like other, like Gen Xers or baby boomers. And then all of a sudden, I have these people in my business called millennials, and I'm trying to run them like I had been run. And I like my front door is like a turnstile of rotating people just in and out. Like they're just like, I'm not working for you. You're insane. Right. And I think a lot of us probably came up a lot like me. And how all of this happened, it's a long way of telling it. Like, look, I'm a technician at heart. I was in the field on a van for decades. And I was at a Chamber of Commerce meeting, and a guy, I didn't know the term millennial at the time. And the guy got up there and kind of did this whole synopsis of the new workforce and what they valued and what they cared about and what they didn't like. And I'm sitting there looking at that guy going, I'm literally making every single one of these mistakes. Like all of them.
You checked
All
all
of
the
them.
boxes.
Every box, right? And look, I'm competitive. I want to win. And I don't care if I have to make adjustments or change. And I walked out of that meeting going, I have to do a 180, right? Like I have to change, and I have to train my younger team in a completely different way. And I have to make sure that I'm ticking the boxes that matters to them. Because if you look at, I mean, I don't care if you're a plumber, HVAC, restoration, the majority of the problems in every home service business reside in the field, right? I mean, that's where everything goes wrong. That's where there's so many variables. And then who always takes the brunt of that? Techs. So, I was like, I have to completely change how I think about this. And I need to get them the training and the things that they actually lack and need. And that's how that all started. Right.
Okay.
And for my people, that was life skills. They just didn't, my clients were eating them alive, and they didn't know why.
Sure. No, I can understand that. So, by the way, I love the nickname Tech Whisperer. Can you tell me a little bit about how that came about?
Yeah, I can actually. So one day, my business partner Larry, he's a marketer by trade, right? So Scott, I think he's a marketer like you, right? And he had gone to a job, and Larry's not super technical, and he thinks in big picture. So he goes and says, okay, guys, this was after a morning meeting. He's got 4 or 5 of my guys at a whiteboard. He's trying to explain what they need to do. And they're all just standing there, just like, I have no idea what this guy's saying. And I was over on the side, and I finally was, they are all looking at me. So I walked over and I said, hey, can I have the whiteboard for a second? And I just was like, you're going here, you're going here, you're going to do this, this, and this, right? Like, because I'm a linear thinker, like a technician. And then Larry looked at me and he's like, and then they all went like, yeah, cool, I get it. And Larry's like, that's exactly what I said. And one of my guys said, that is nothing what you said.
No.
And then another one of my guys goes, yeah, Eric gets us. He's the tech whisperer. And then that just stuck. So it was one of my guys gave me the nickname.
That's too cool. And to have it organically come out like that, and you had to interpret, right, for them and speak their language.
Right. Yeah. Which, some people are able to do and some people aren't. And that's fine too. Right?
But that's great. I mean, having been in restoration for so long, so much is being expected of the techs every day. I mean, there's still a sales aspect because they're
huge
on site, customer service, technical, all of these things. So, and that requires that development of the soft skills, right?
Yeah.
A lot of owners think training is really just the ICRC certs and knowing how to run drying equipment, all of that. But what are they putting on the table by only focusing on the technical side?
I mean, look, this, Scott, already. The industry's changing drastically. The way people I think restoration, because we, at SuperTech, we also deal with plumbing and heating and electrical, right?
Yeah.
So those are trades that forever have gone business to consumer. So they're really good. They're way more dialed into the restorers on the customer service aspect because they're competing directly for clients, right? Where we were getting work from carriers and TPAs and all this stuff, right? So a lot of us didn't have to, especially 20 years ago, we didn't have to worry about this stuff as much, right? That's changing. And look, I was working in Los Angeles. It was a competitive market. And what they're leaving on the table is this. I realized this really quickly. We all have the same vans. We all have the same uniforms. We all have the same certifications. We all have the same drying equipment. What's the only thing that changes from one company to the next? How good we serve, how well we serve.
Sure.
How good my people are, and nowadays we're starting to see, how many cash pay jobs are restoration companies having to do. That's a service thing. You look at a TPA, even TPAs, a lot of TPAs will score at least 20 to 30% of the scores based on customer service. Our industry's changing. You have to be good at service now. And then you start looking at the technicians, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way, but it's like I look at my own team. Most of my guys are coming from families who don't have a lot. They're coming from school systems that weren't awesome, neighborhoods where nobody was training them on a lot of life skills. And then they end up on my doorstep and they're 22 years old and have never been in $1 million house in their whole life and talked to a lawyer or a doctor or whatever. And I'm expecting them with no training in that way to be able to go serve that client well. That's an insane ask on our part. And we all do it.
Yeah.
Right? We all just go get in a van and get out there and make it happen. And then when things go poorly, we're shocked.
Right.
Right. So my whole thing was like, okay, I'm going to build a life academy inside my restoration company. So I'm going to train these people how to live their life better, how to communicate better, to even understand like job site behavior, right? So I remember I had a kid put a pipe wrench on a beautiful granite countertop in a very, very expensive home. Homeowner calls me just flipped out. Do you have any idea how much I spent on that granite? So I rush over there like we all do, calm the client down, pull my guy aside. He's like 22 years old. And I was like, hey, why is the pipe wrench going on the granite countertop? That's totally unacceptable. And he was just like, I don't know. It wouldn't be unacceptable in my house.
Uh-oh.
Right? No. But then I started thinking about it and I'm like, a lot of my people don't come from the same background as my clients. I actually have to teach them what is acceptable and not acceptable in for in-home behavior. And look, it's not their fault. They don't know what they don't know.
Sure.
It's my fault. Like, have you ever read Jocko Willink's book, Extreme Ownership?
Oh, love it. Great book.
Yeah. The day that my business and my life changed was the day that I read that book and said, everything in this business is my fault.
Correct.
Everything.
Yep.
So all of a sudden I'm looking at it going, if they're not happy with my guys, that's me. That's not them. If I didn't train that person not to put a pipe wrench on a granite countertop, that's on me. And that's when everything started to change for me. Because now I'm not blaming anymore. I'm only looking in the mirror going, I don't have problems. I just have more work to do.
Absolutely. Well, and really helping not only the owners understand the value in that, because it's not just about going through the checklist of the emergency services and all of that, but it's about understanding what those property owners are going through. I mean, they're walking
Totally.
in when the worst thing has happened to somebody's home or their business, and they need to understand how to engage in that conversation and help them understand what's about to happen.
Yeah.
And that is a great separator. You talked about it earlier. It's that customer service experience. So how, and I know this is probably a pretty obvious question, but what does a bad customer interaction actually cost a restoration company?
Oh, man. I mean, all right, let's think about it this way. So I had a plumbing company that was giving me 7+ figures a year in referrals, right?
Wow.
Okay. Big. Oh, my thing just went out. I don't know why that is. Sorry about that. And so imagine I send my guy on a new loss and he's not showing empathy and he's belittling that this is a tiny loss. I was at a way bigger one an hour ago, right? And he's doing all the things wrong to irritate that client and not have them feel good about Shamrock. What's going to happen? That client's going to call the plumber. The plumber's going to tell every other plumber in that company who lose $1 million or $2 million in a year.
Oh,
right? I mean, that's what's at stake.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or what if it's a big property manager that you work for? What if it's an agent or what if you have a TPA and we keep starting now we're all of a sudden like our work's good, but that score on our customer service keeps going down.
Right.
Like I don't even know how to quantify, Scott, the amount of money. And I think what happens is a lot of people lose a lot of referral sources and they just don't even recognize why.
Right. They just stop using them.
Yeah.
Because,
I mean, if you ever, I remember running losses myself, right? So like I learned I had to script everything and we'd have to do role play to get guys used to saying the same thing. So I remember the first time this happened to me and it was unintentional. We used to talk about empathy all the time. We did empathy training a little bit almost every day because in restoration, that is the number one thing that we need to be is empathetic.
Sure.
And I rang a doorbell at like 10 o'clock at night on a new loss, and stupid me asked the homeowner, I introduced myself and say, how are you doing?
Oh,
right?
man.
It's just normal. We all say that all the time, right? And I was tired and the guy just lit me up. Well, how do you think I'm doing? I'm doing terribly. And I turned it around, but I remember thinking like, it's so easy for any of us to say that because that's outside of a restoration call,
right.
You would say, how are you doing to every person that you meet?
Correct.
And so we had to go and script basically having an empathetic saying to say at the front door and then what to say on the inspection and then how to go through the whole sales process. And I just tried to script out and role play every single portion of restoration for my technicians so that they could do it rote without having to think about it.
100%. No, that's fantastic. So pivoting a little bit right here.
Yep.
I know one of the things when I was coaching with business owners over the years, I was also a big believer in having that daily team huddle. We called it a WIP meeting, work in progress,
Sure.
but that was so vital for the business. So for any of those owners that are listening in and they've got crews heading out early in the morning, how do they actually make that happen without really making it seem like, oh gosh, this is just something else that we have to do before we can get going?
We talking about super tech or are we talking about anything?
The daily team huddle. How do they
Okay.
build that into their culture?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, that was the thing that changed our company. The daily huddle is what we put in place. And basically, what Super Tech is based upon was my own daily huddles in my company. And it changed everything. And look, I'm not going to stand here and say it was like all perfect and roses and easy. I mean, I can't tell you how many, we did a lot of commercial work. I can't tell you how many times we get a call at 5 a.m. when the first person to open the building's going in and water's flowing out. So all of a sudden, I've got half of my people out on a loss 25 miles away. And
Right.
what I would do is, but I was committed to this morning meeting. We were using Zoom a half a decade before the pandemic hit.
Oh,
Like,
good.
we were already using Zoom because what we learned was, okay, cool. Half our team's out on this new loss. We're going to take 5 to 10 minutes and have them go out to the tailgate of the truck and whip up a laptop and get on a Zoom call so that they can still be there. And I know that sounds like, oh my gosh, like, what do you mean you're going to stop sucking water for 5 minutes and go have a meeting? Yes,
Yeah,
I am,
good.
because that's what makes my company great, right? And I just think the biggest part, the biggest roadblock is usually owner commitment to doing it,
Okay.
right? I'll use my business partner, Larry, at the beginning, hated the morning meetings,
Oh,
hated the huddles because he's frugal. And he would sit there and tap his watch and make the little dollar sign
oh,
for
wow.
like every minute that I was doing. He'd stand in the back of the room
Okay.
because he didn't see the value yet. He had to see that value. And I mean, he's all in now,
Good.
obviously. But
Oh,
the
sure.
thing is that I think most owners I always ask the question, Scott, are we being efficient or are we being effective?
Mm,
Right? Efficient is getting them out the door super fast,
right.
right? And
Right.
that's where most people lie. Effective is slowing down for a few minutes, getting everybody taught, engaged, wanting to be there, and then sending them out. I'd rather be effective. I think it's
100%.
more effective. I think it's more effective.
No, I mean that's sharpening the saw, so to speak, but
Yeah.
it's also building that team culture, I believe.
Well, the other thing is, if you look at younger employees, which is like, I know we're mainly talking about technicians, but I think it goes for everybody. Millennials and Generation Z. Look, nobody my age is ringing your doorbell saying, I want to be a technician, right? We're aged out of that.
Right.
So most of us, we have a very young crew. And all the data for especially Gen Z says, engagement, community, and investment in them is what keeps them at jobs. And if you can't provide those three things, they're out because they know they can have a job in a day in the trades, like just like that. And that's what we didn't even realize when we started. I was literally starting the huddles, and yes, we did it just like you. We had a production component, like, so that started with the whip, and then we
Right.
do like a 5 minute like mini lesson every day, and then we'd take a couple minutes and talk about it. We tried to get everybody out the door in 15 minutes, right? We
Great.
still have to go make money.
Sure.
And but what happened was, and we didn't really realize this was going to happen. All of a sudden, my employee retention was through the roof.
Mm,
People weren't quitting anymore, right? I believe Know How they did a study, and they said for a mitigation technician, the cost of replacement of that person is 1.6 times their annual pay,
wow. Okay.
right? So, I mean,
Wow.
think about it. If your tech made 50K, that's 30K to replace them. And when I first heard that, I'm like, that's insane. And then I started like thinking about hiring, onboarding, interviews, and training that person for months, and then they leave me. Also, another statistic is the average mitigation technician only stays in the industry 7 months, right?
Wow.
So I'm turning people over fast. So one of the key metrics in our company was, how long can we keep mitigation techs?
Mm,
How long can I keep them? Right. And by having that daily investment and spending a little bit of time with them, that isn't just production, keeps people there longer. I was keeping techs 3, 4 years, all day
well,
long, all day
you're,
long.
you're speaking the language of every owner right now, retention.
If if you can compound that retention over time, you're going to kick the butt of all your competitors who keep losing people every 7 months.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean that's a huge challenge for every restoration owner out there.
It
Keeping good
is.
habits. And clearly those methods of the commitment to training, those team huddles,
Yeah.
that sounds like it's going a long way to ensure that you're investing in them, keeping them
Yeah.
engaged. You've written about why most restoration companies stay small. So how much of that comes down to a technician problem versus an owner mindset problem?
I think it's both, but look, again, extreme ownership. At the end of the day, it's your company. It's probably you,
Love it.
right? Most restorers who don't, grow on whatever size they want to get to is usually because very into production, very into the technical portion of the job, right? They think like technicians and not like entrepreneurs, right? My goal at my company was to run it and essentially never be there, right? Like I want to set up all the systems and put all the people in there and be out of the picture and be supportive, be a servant leader, and help everybody get what they need. But I think the people who don't grow to the level they want, they're always in it, Scott. They're always get their fingers in every little thing, and they don't trust. And they don't trust because they don't train.
Hmm, that's powerful.
Yeah, because it's like, look, and I'm saying this out of experience. That used to be me. I'd run around and try to keep all the balls in the air, and then complain to everybody that I don't have any time. I always call that the hero. It's the hero and the victim, and
Right.
I didn't make that up. Somebody told me that I'm that person.
Oh,
So,
wow.
what would happen is I'd be sitting at my desk and a technician would be on a job and they'd call me and be like, "Hey, Eric, we don't know what to do here. What do you want us to do?" And I'd put on my cape and my Superman shirt and I'd drive over there and I'd be like, "Do this and this and this."
Right.
And then I got the whole endorphin rush of like, I'm the smartest guy in this building right now, right? And I'd walk out
Sure.
and I've got that, that dopamine hit of like fixing the problem.
Yeah.
And then I'd go back to the office and then complain to all the office team that, if it wasn't for me, like these guys are pulling me away from my desk. I can't get anything done. So now I get another dopamine hit when they're like, "Oh, poor you." And I think a lot of owners just reside in that cycle.
Yes.
They never get out.
No,
You
and
can't scale that.
that's a tough one. That is certainly a tough one. So for restoration owner listening who in right now who has zero formal training structure for their techs, where do they even start? I know you got to get
uh, yeah, well, I mean, look, I can make a shameless plug and say Super Tech
do it.
University.
Let's talk about that. Talk about why Super Tech has been so
Yeah.
effective.
Yeah. Well, when after we sold, I was like, okay, I got to figure out what I'm going to do next. Like, I can't sit around and do nothing. And I started looking at our business and going, well, what made us sellable? What made it to get to the point where somebody would want to buy it? And really, the only thing was the training, right? Because all the other elements of my business were just like everybody else. And, one of the reasons why we had so many great referral partners who gave us work consistently is they knew we would take care of their clients, right? That they weren't going to get that phone call like, "Why are you guys screwing up all the time?" So I was able to keep referral partners a long time. So, how I did that was what I said before. I had a brief meeting every single day, and I was committed to that. I never stopped doing that meeting. Like, if I was only at the office 15 minutes a day, that's the 15 minutes I'm going to be there.
Good.
And when we sold, I was like, okay, I think the meetings are powerful. So I just shot on video some of the stuff that I've done myself at our own shop. And I sent it to some plumbers, and I sent it to some HVAC guys. I sent it to some of my restorers, just friends of mine, and said, "Hey, I'm kind of playing with the idea of like taking my morning huddles and making a product out of it. Like, what do you think?" And I'm going to be really honest. Like, I sent them out. I didn't hear back quickly, and then I just kind of lost interest and didn't think about it anymore. I And then about a month later, I'm starting to get texts and phone calls from my friends like, "Well, where's the rest of them and how do we sign up?"
Oh,
I'm like, "Oh, Okay.
Go.
So basically, well, look, I have 44 years in the trades. I've owned and sold 2 businesses, and I spent countless hours building the content for these lessons, right? And look, it wasn't smooth because when before I started Super Tech, I tried all kinds of stuff and then would try it out on my team and it would flop. Like it would die, right?
Sure,
And then
sure.
I finally kind of realized, okay, I need people like a rhythm, right? They don't like random lessons. They like a daily rhythm so they know what's coming. Especially technicians, they're structured generally. So what I did is I started doing Monday was personal development day in our company because if they're not good outside of work, it's all going to bleed into my company, right? So I'm trying to add value to my team, not just at work, but also all the time,
Good.
right? That
Sure.
keeps people there,
Mhm.
right? Like, hey, I had a guy that he was an absolute rock star and a franchise in our account offered him way more money than I could offer him. And I'm thinking, well, he's gone. He's like, yeah, I'm not leaving. I'm like, what do you mean you're not leaving? Like, I think I might leave at that price, And he was like, yeah, but they're not going to care about me. You're trying to help me everywhere.
Mm,
He's like, that's worth more than, another X amount of dollars a year or whatever.
of course.
So Monday, personal development. Tuesday, job site behavior. I mentioned earlier, a lot of my younger people just didn't know how to properly behave in a lot of the places that we work. So what are we doing? Every week on Tuesday, we're training that, like some version of that. Then Wednesday, we started using DISC, the personality profile model. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah. Yes.
But what
Great.
we realized was a lot of especially our younger guys, because they grew up texting everything, they didn't have a lot of face-to-face communication skill.
Right.
So we used this to teach them self-awareness, the ability to work with whoever they're going to be on the van with so that they each understand their style. And most importantly, being able to read a client and then talk to that client in the style that that client likes to be spoken to. That was the number one game changer in my business because
Wow.
now I have a whole building full of people who are self-aware. So we put like big boards up with everybody's name and what disc profile they are, and we were into disc. Then on Thursdays we would train sales and service. I believe they're the same. It's just educating people and giving them the information they need. Fridays we would then do like a recap of those 4 lessons, and I would give them a 5-question quiz to keep them honest.
Okay.
Now, as part of that, and I know what everybody's thinking. Yeah, but I got those 5 guys and sit in the back of the room and just don't buy in. Yeah, well, guess what? I'm randomly calling on them to ask their opinion on stuff, right? They're not getting off scot-free.
Oh yeah.
And that's what we do. So actually, we started Super Tech, and then we actually if somebody does 6 months, I believe 6 months worth of lessons gets them 14 CE credits for the ICRC. So they don't
Okay.
have to send people all over the place. They can just do a little bit every day. And we're in all the verticals in home service. We have 750 companies
Mhm.
worldwide using us every day.
Fantastic.
And plumbing, heating, electrical, restoration, a lot of carpet cleaners too. And look, I'm not saying you have to get Super Tech. You can do this yourself. Anybody could do this. I just gave you a formula if you want to do that. I will say it's a lot of time.
Mhm.
And by the time that I started building all this for my team, I was kind of non-operational in our company. I actually had enough bandwidth that I wasn't running around doing bids, and I had managers in place. I don't think if I had been that size by the time I started, I don't know if I could have pulled it off because it would take me about an hour and a half a day to prep my content.
Oh, sure. Well, sounds fantastic. So I'm sure some folks would love to know how do they find out more information on SuperTech? How do they reach it? Website?
supertechu.com. Yeah.
SuperTechU.com.
Now it will say membership closed. All you have to do is call us or email us, and we'll if they're listening to the podcast, we'll let them in.
That's a great offer. Well, Eric, I'm sure we could probably talk quite a bit longer on a lot of these things, but this has been great. I've enjoyed the conversation. Thank you
Awesome.
for sharing your experience and your wisdom. Bonjour, I'm turning it over to you to close.
All right.
Thanks so
Thank you,
much,
Scott.
Thanks, Eric. So that's a wrap with today's
Thank you.
episode of Restoration Insider. A big thank you again to Eric for sharing his insight and experience. And if you want to dive deeper into what Eric is building, obviously he's told you supertechuniversity.com is the place to go. And he's also, and if you want to hear more from him, he's also available on Blue Collar Nation podcast. So all great resources for any restoration owner serious about leveling up. And if you're looking to build a stronger workforce remotely for your restoration business, then you can reach out to us at karmastaff.com and we'd love to connect. Until next time, thank you so much, Eric. Thank you so much, Scott.